Welcome to another installment of the Miami Herald's Dolphins in Depth podcast. I'm your host, Omar Kelly, and we're here to talk and get you ready for the first week of the regular season. It's finally here. Time to kick off football that really matters. And joining me is Barry Jackson, the illustrious Barry Jackson of Miami Herald fame from Cell Block. What number was it? 36?
It's 38.
38.
Yes,
Cell Block 38.
I think I'm going to get food and water later today.
Yeah, which is
it's 39. I'm told by our illustrious producer that it's 39. I can't even get my cell block right.
Yes, cell block, which represents how many years Barry Jackson has been at the Miami Herald. Barry,
39. Yeah. If I can't get my cell block right, how am I going to get the Dolphins record this season right? Because we are going to have a prediction segment at the end of today's show or the end of Friday's show. So there's pressure on us to get this record right.
Yeah. Let's get into some of the news of the day, Barry. Obviously, we're getting ready for the Jacksonville Jaguars. A lot of Trevor Lawrence talk. I also have a piece on the leadership that there's sort of been a seismic shift in terms of how this team will operate or how Mike McDaniels wants the team to operate. And it's quite interesting. We'll talk about that a little later. But on the top of the agenda is Jalen Ramsey's status. And this is very interesting because there are a lot of people in the periphery who claim or think that this is about a contract, that Jalen hasn't practiced in 3 weeks because of a contract. And I don't agree with that. Not that I know for absolute certain, but the man was given $24 million earlier this year. He's the third highest paid cornerback in the entire NFL. There are only two players, including a Surtain, that just got a mega deal who are ahead of him. And Jalen is been a guy that it's very clear that they're forcing him not to practice. He was not a practice participant, and we've learned that it is a hamstring injury, which for me, Barry, was a sign of relief because my worst fear is always going to be a knee.
Right, and especially because he had it last year. Yeah, hamstring is a bit of a relief, but you can see now why the Dolphins don't want him to practice, because if he re-aggravates it, then he could be gone for an extended time. Wasn't it a hamstring with Rob Hunt last year, Omar, where he came back and then aggravated? It was either hamstring or groin. It was something that
it was hamstring. He had a big,
it was a hamstring.
Great size purple knot on the back of his cheeks.
Yeah, it's funny because I said sort of on tongue in cheek on Twitter a couple weeks ago that I'm deeply, deeply concerned about this team. And I was saying that partly in jest, but I will tell you this. I am deeply, deeply concerned about cornerback on this team if Jalen Ramsey is dealing with an injury, because then you're looking at a top three of Kendall Fuller, who's solid, Kader Kohu, who's coming off a poor second season, Ethan Bonner, who's untested, Storm Duck, who's untested. Then there are major concerns going against quarterbacks the caliber of Trevor Lawrence and Josh Allen, even Janu Smith in week 3, right? So I would have great concerns with this injury, even though it's not as scary as a knee. It's the type of thing that you can re-aggravate quickly. Does this worry you?
You forgot Kendall Fuller, Barry, who got another day.
No, I named him first. I might have frozen, but I named him first. Yes, he's solid, but now obviously he's going to be taking on the top receivers if Ramsey is re-injured during the game. I guess we're both cautiously optimistic we're going to play, but I found it interesting that McDaniel did not commit to him playing Sunday. And normally, Omar, he would tell us, I'm not worried about a particular guy when he's asked, is a guy going to play Sunday? This was unusual that he didn't commit to it. Does that worry you?
It doesn't, just because I know how hard it is to keep Jalen Ramsey off the field if Jalen Ramsey wants to play. I do believe, I swear on a stack of Bibles, that I saw Joe Tremino kick Jalen Ramsey out of practice on Monday. It was a very clear, Jalen's like, I'm going to practice. And Tremino was like, no, you're not. And like, go inside and do your rehab assignment. Jalen has practiced once in 3 weeks. And it was after he went an entire week of training camp up until the joint practices. And I think he participated in the joint practices with the Atlanta Falcons. And he was practicing like a dog, barely taking a practice off. He was trying to set the tone for the team. And we'll get into that a little bit later based on the column that I'm writing. If Jalen Ramsey says he wants to play, this isn't a situation where I think Mike McDaniel has a say, because me and you both, Barry, we know how surly Jalen Ramsey is. And when Jalen wants to do something, he's going to do it.
Yeah, I think I would lean more toward him trying to play, but I do have concern with re-aggravating the injury because it's the type of thing that if you take one wrong turn, it could put you out for 2 or 3 weeks. So that's what most worries me, not about whether he's going to play Sunday, but whether he's going to re-aggravate it and then be shut down for a couple of weeks because you badly need him against Buffalo. And I know there's no more Stephon Diggs, there's no more Gabe Davis for Buffalo, but you can't go into that game without your top corner as good as the Bills are. So that's sort of what I'm.
You can't go into any game, Barry, without Jalen Ramsey. I mean, he's probably one, maybe Tua, Jalen Ramsey. I think there are very select players who are irreplaceable on this Dolphins team, and Jalen Ramsey happens to be one of them.
Yeah. So it leads to this question: should they have signed a veteran? Should they go after Xavier? Should they have signed a veteran just to protect themselves for this type of situation?
I'm not going to answer that question, Barry, because fans are already down my throat because I keep rubbing it in their face that they think that this cornerback unit has been an upgrade over last season. And both you and I, which clearly we have an agenda, Barry, are telling them, no, it's not. It's not. I mean, if Jalen Ramsey doesn't play, you got Kendall Fuller, who's okay. He's an okay veteran. And then you've got Kader Kohou and Ethan Bonner.
And Storm Duck and Saran Neal, who's mostly been special teams player for Buffalo. And then Isaiah Johnson on your practice squad. So, yeah, I would be queasy. And it's not because these are not good young players. Obviously, we saw what Kohou can do as a rookie. We saw regression last year. We know Ethan Bonner's an intriguing young talent. We know Storm Duck and Isaiah Johnson are intriguing young talents. But you would want another veteran. To me, they should have added a veteran on the practice squad or been willing to spend money to add a veteran corner. If Eli Apple were here today, and if Ramsey were, God forbid, re-injured Sunday, would you put him in the game or would you rather trust the kids?
Considering I said all season, let me see what the kids can do. I'm fine with seeing what the kids can do. However, this is a game where I think Nick Needham needs to be active and up. Primarily if he needs to be backup nickel. Maybe Ethan has to play on the boundary because you're really going with not Ethan, but maybe Kader Kohou has to play on the boundary, which is not something I support. But you're going with Ethan Bonner or Kader Kohou. Either way, you're not in a great situation. So let's hope that Jalen Ramsey heals up. Let's hope that Kendall Fuller doesn't get injured because right now you got mystery meat out there at cornerback. And yes, should they have added a veteran? Yes. Will they probably add a veteran? Maybe. We'll see how things go when week 2 contracts aren't fully guaranteed and they can address what seems to be something that's concerning them, which is this Ramsey hamstring.
Yeah, and I'll add this one thing. I totally agree with you. Needham has to be one of the 2 elevations on Sunday. I would say Robbie Chosen, to me, is the obvious other one, assuming he's picked up the system again and there's no problems with relearning it. So to me, those are the 2 obvious elevations, which means they'll probably do something entirely different.
Yeah, Barry, that I'm right there with you. Let's get into the injury report, Barry. These are injuries that we've known about. Javon Holland, who has missed all of the exhibition season, he has an ankle injury, Barry. Finally, we're on the record. On the record is Benito Jones's knee injury. Benito told you he's fine, he's ready to go.
He said he's fine. He said he was never concerned about missing part of practice or part of the regular season. So he's in good shape. The question is with him real quickly, how often will we see Anthony Weaver play Heath, Campbell, and Sealer together? Anthony Weaver traditionally, at least Baltimore's defense traditionally, has gone primarily with 2 down linemen. So we'll see Benito Jones with them some. I just don't think we'll see them a ton. But go on with the injury list.
We got Teron Armstead with veteran rest. We got Calais Campbell with veteran rest. We got Jalen Phillips with veteran rest and the Achilles. They're going to be more than likely putting Jalen on a snap count. We know Jalen's not going to be supportive of this. However, Mike McDaniel is going to do what Mike McDaniel is going to do, which is protect players against themselves. Quentin Bell has a thumb injury. He participated. Aaron, did I say it right? Aaron Brewer. He's got obviously a hand injury. He practiced today on a limited basis. We got Kendall Fuller with a vet rest and David Long, who also got a vet rest, but we also know that he's battling a knee injury. Jordan Poyer with a thumb, Anthony Walker with a knee. Malik Washington with a quadriceps injury, so that's a little bit interesting. Barry, any of these injuries concern you for Sunday?
Well, a couple things I want to add to your list. One is I talked to Liam Eichenberg. I said, if they indicated to you, are you going to be the center on Sunday? Are you going to be the right guard? And Liam is so funny. He said, I was asking about that today. They wouldn't give me any information. And he says it in such an earnest, genuine way that you're tempted to believe him. So he said, I'm going to be fine with either. I took snaps today of both center and guard. So they're obviously protecting themselves in case Brewer has any issue with his hand laceration. But the fact that Brewer practiced today, albeit on a limited basis, was encouraging. So we could see Brewer back at center on Sunday, Liam at right guard. And I know you and I had talked about whether Liam would automatically go back and play right guard or whether they could stick with Cotton initially. I think we're both of the thinking now that if Brewer starts at center, Liam will be at right guard, right?
This is the Liam reclamation program that we're on, and we will help Liam become the best player that he can potentially be so that we cannot embarrass Chris Greer about making a bad draft pick. So Liam is going to have every opportunity to succeed, and let's just hope that he succeeds.
Yes. And then I was going to have a quick thing on Anthony Walker. I talked to him. He said he's thrilled to be back. Didn't want to discuss the injury that had sidelined him, but said he's excited about having 100 people he's from Miami. As we know, he's going to have 100 people in attendance at games over the course of the year. He had to separate tickets accordingly over the full home schedule. And it's going to be interesting to me, Omar, what Anthony Weaver does with 4 veteran inside linebackers. Does he create a package to get snaps for Anthony Walker, or does he play primarily David Long and Jordan Brooks? We suspect that Long probably won't be on the field a ton in clear passing downs because that's not his strength. Jordan Brooks could be an every down linebacker. The question is, would you split snaps between Anthony Walker and either Brooks or Long? How would you do it if you were allocating inside linebacker snaps? And we shouldn't forget about Duke Riley, who's a good pro as well.
Based on what I saw from Anthony Walker in the early portion of OTAs and in the portions of training camp where he participated, I was thoroughly impressed. Now, is he David Long in terms of the run stopping ability? No, but he gives you a coverage element that is encouraging. Now, that was when he could move and had lateral mobility and a healthy knee. I have no idea what it's going to look like when he gets out there on the field. Right now, I'm riding David Long. He was named the captain, led the team in tackles last year. Even though Vic Fangio did not believe in him in pass coverage, I think the coaching staff is going to give him every opportunity to prove what he can do. And then if he can't prove that he can be or this is going to be a difficult matchup with Etienne, who is one of those speedy, athletic backs. That's a matchup that you would think that the Jacksonville Jaguars want to exploit, Etienne versus David Long. So maybe the Dolphins have to guard against that. It'll be interesting. It's a chess match, Barry. So I have no idea what approach I would take, and primarily because I don't know how healthy Anthony Walker is. I don't know what his movement looks like. And same thing with David Long. Right. I think maybe some of the issues that David Long was having in that joint practice against Tampa Bay was injury related. So we shall see.
Yeah, and I want to add this as well. You talked about ATN and the challenges he creates. What about defending Evan Ingram, who led all NFL tight ends with 114 catches last year? Do you use an inside linebacker? Do you use one of your safeties? That's obviously a problem that they're going to have to attend to on Sunday.
Absolutely. I think it's one of the safeties. I think it's a Javon Holland assignment. At some point, we've got to put Holland in a situation to be successful. I think that's putting him closer in the box. I think that's giving him nickel work. I think that's giving him safety coverage work. But then again, what do you do with Jordan Poyer, who is not necessarily a deep center field kind of safety, or do you play Marcus May? That's going to be another coaching assignment. But we know Anthony Walker's history is to play 3 safeties on the field at the same time. I personally thought that Jalen Ramsey would kind of be in that role as a third safety with another cornerback, maybe Cam Smith or maybe Ethan Bonner being on the boundary. Who knows? At this point, I think the Dolphins are doing the best that they can to put the healthy players on the field to give themselves the best approach to be successful. Another thing that we have to address is the captains. We haven't talked about this on this show. They named 8 captains on the team. Let me see if I can get all of them. Tua, Teron, the 2 new guys, David Long, and Calais Campbell. No, Zach Sealer is a new captain. Calais Campbell is also a captain. And then Tyreek is a captain, and Alec Ingold. Look at me, Barry. I got all of the captains. And what I found very interesting about the captaincy and the approach is that this has been a team that is led by the veterans, led by the aged players. They are the oldest team in the NFL, average age of 27 and 2 months. And the leadership is really what has been the difference in my mind. And here's Tyreek addressing the leadership before I come back and talk to you about what Mike McDaniel has done to empower those leaders.
And it does. Like having a guy like T-Stead, having a guy like Calais, like those guys know so much about the game, man. And those guys are so passionate about the game. And just to have those guys in the locker room, like hearing like some of the stories and like hearing some of, the great tales that they got, from like other teams, and they bring like a certain swagger to like this team that we haven't had. Like a guy like Jordan Poyer, like he brings a different mindset, to the defense. Myself, I bring a different swagger to this offense. So it's fun to have older guys on the team, man. It's great to have young guys too, but I think I believe if there's a blend of both, and they mesh well together, a team can be real good, and we got that with this team. Jalen Ramsey is another guy. Like he brings a different side, to this whole entire team, not just the defense, but the whole entire team. So it's fun to have.
Yeah, Barry. One thing, I was talking to some of the veterans on the team, and I have noticed that it has been more of a player-driven team, of players taking the charge, players leading the way, and spoke to some members of the Leadership Council, which is primarily made up of captains. And they've said that this has been an initiative that Mike McDaniel has hammered and encouraged to the team throughout the entire offseason, that this has to be a player-driven situation. We, as the coaches, do not lead this team. You all dictate how we play, the way we play, our mentality, our attitude, our focus. And that's why the Leadership Council is so important. So this is going to be something to watch very closely. I first got wind of it when Jalen Ramsey basically did the Kanye West and stepped in front of Mike McDaniel as if he was Taylor Swift, and basically chastised the team for the fact that, oh, we have a soft reputation. If you want to play with me, you got to be a bully. I don't want anybody who isn't a bully and takes a bully mentality to this game. He basically told them that's how we won a championship, the Rams, and that's the mentality that we have to adapt. And that's the approach that the Miami Dolphins tried to initiate up until probably that Tampa Bay week. And we'll see in the regular season. To be a bully, you got to win at the line of scrimmage. You absolutely have to dominate the line of scrimmage. And both you and I, Barry, this is not, we're collaboratively thinking this, but both you and I would acknowledge that if we had to identify two of the weakest units on the entire team, it's going to be the offensive line and the defensive line, which, hey, we'll see how that plays out.
No question about it. You made an interesting point to me off air I wanted to bring up with regard to leadership on this team and the fact that this team says they're particularly close. And we hear that from every team in the league. We've heard it with with college football, that players are particularly close and hang out together. But you made a good point to me I want to talk about. You said that when guys really are close and are friends and are spending time off the field together, in theory, it should make it easier for them to call each other out, hold each other accountable when one of them makes a mistake. So for those who give short shrift to that issue, I thought that was a very good point you made about why it's important. Because if you're hearing it from your buddy, as opposed to hearing it from someone who you just go to work with and don't have any relationship with, I think you're more likely to take it constructively, right?
Yeah, and I addressed that in my column. Calais Campbell talked about, hey, to get to hold players accountable, I got to know the player. I got to know his kid's name. I got to know who his wife is. I got to know the reason why he's playing this game. What's his goal? What's his desire? And then when, and I quote him on this, and then when you do something on the field or you come to practice and don't have that energy level or don't have that focus or intensity, I can walk up to you and I can say, are you playing to the standard that you set for yourself in terms of what you want to achieve? And, I have the greatest amount of respect for Calais as not just a player, because he's an all-decade player. He's probably going to be a Hall of Fame player, but also as a leader. He's the last of the Mohicans, of the Hurricanes, of the great dynasties. So he knows what it looks like. He knows what the standards are that have been set forth. Yes, he's never won a Super Bowl, but he's been on some very good teams. And the question is, can this Dolphins team get over the hump of being good, but folding when adversity hits? And their thought process is that it's going to be leadership and alpha males and dogs who help them do that. And so that's why they've added as many as they have, even though it's helped them become one of the oldest teams in the NFL.
We're fortunate to have I think everyone's been talking about the different type of weapons we have, and the good football players that we have that have multitude of skill sets. So in that, when you say starters, to me, you're talking about a caliber of player, and there's about 15 of those guys on our team. And since, no one's noticed the fact that there wasn't one depth chart last year that was the first play of the game exactly right? It would have been illegal every game. There's 12, right? There's only 11 on the field. Okay? So, I look at it as, for our football team, you can have in a F position, the starting point is you are inside the X and Z, away from the tight end or to him to 3-by-1. And then whether that you're playing any iteration of those formations, 2-by-2, 3-by-1, 1-by-3, whatever. There's 5 eligibles, and any one of those you kind of get more of a sense of you are just either in the blocking core, maybe you're in the perimeter, maybe you're doing both. You have skill sets that sometimes we have, most of the time our fullback, by definition of what a fullback is known to be, isn't playing fullback. He's playing receiver or tight end or, multitude of things. So for us, F is can be a third down target, can be a core blocking tool, an asset, a guy that you're trying to get the ball to in space. Maybe if there's maybe if you have some players that occupy a lot of space that defenses have to regard, Fs can take advantage of underneath space in defense.
Yeah, that's Mike McDaniel addressing the new change, new shift, new adaptation. I call it the Janu Smith package, which became infamous. It's a package of plays that are designed for a player that's hard to identify exactly who he is, what he is. And the Dolphins have 3 of them, Barry. They've got Alec Ingold, who is a traditional fullback, a plotter. Unfortunately, I'm sure he would hate the fact that I called him a plotter, but he is a Pro Bowl fullback. Then we got Janu Smith, who led the NFL in yards after the catch for the tight end position. Very dynamic, elusive, H-back type of player. I think you'll see him carrying the ball. I think you'll see him being part of the screen game. I think you'll see him flexed out wide. I think you'll see him used as a slot. And then they've got Tanner Connor, who I talked to today, and Mike McDaniel has praised Tanner Connor for the guy who has the greatest understanding of his offense, primarily because he's had to learn so many different roles. And Tanner Connor, who was a former college wide receiver, he knows how to play the wide receiver spot. He knows how to play slot receiver. He knows how to play H-back. He knows how to play fullback because he has done it from time to time. So when you have all of those ingredients and all of those pieces, I can say with conviction, undeniable belief, based on what I've seen during training camp and the exhibition season, that this package is probably going to be the newest thing in the NFL, because I think it's going to, just like the cheat motion, set a trend. This is the newest addition to the number one offense, and it is designed to keep people balanced. You're going to cover two guys with two safeties, we're going to hit you underneath. You want to take that, you want to take underneath away, okay, we're going to plod you with the run game. So it's going to be a very interesting thing to see what the changes and shifts are in the 21 and 22 personnel for this Dolphins team.
Yeah, there are a few things I'm curious about. One is how often Janu carries the ball. 17 career carries, but only 2 combined over the last 2 years. We saw at least 10 times during training camp where he ran the ball. They ran it in a preseason game. McDaniel did not try to hide this. He did this in public forums, including the joint practice against Atlanta. So that'll be interesting.
You know why they do it publicly, Barry? You know why they do it publicly? Because teams have to prepare for it when you see it. It's going to take up practice time. It's going to take up film study time. You see it, it's on film. Let's prepare. You're going to have to prepare for it. And Alec Ingold was the first to say the package will grow as the season progresses, and I truly do believe that it's gonna grow, because I've seen so much of it. I'm like, oh, I'm an X's and O guy, and when I watch it, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, he could build off that. Oh, this is what's happening with that play. This is what this is what challenges it's going to present in the secondary, and it is going to be the new thing in my mind in the NFL. Could be overstating it, but I wouldn't be surprised. And it's not just Janu Smith. I wouldn't be surprised if you're going to see this become 33% of this offense.
Interesting. Also, I wonder about screen passes. We didn't see a ton of screens to tight ends last year just because they didn't have the personnel to do it. Janu Smith historically has been effective on screens, especially because of his yards after catch. So that'll be interesting. And there's one other thing I'm really curious about offensively that's going to be, I think, something you and I have both given a lot of thought to. What personnel do they use on third and short? Because obviously what they've done, often going in shotgun and passing the majority of the time in third and short, hasn't worked. Last year when they ran on third and 1 or 2, they were 8 for 14. That conversion rate simply is not good enough. I know you asked Alec Ingold yesterday, why aren't you on the field for more of those plays? Is it time for Mike McDaniel to revisit going in shotgun on 3rd and 1 and to line up in a power formation and trust that Aaron Brewer, whose strength is run blocking, and your 2 guards, Rob Jones and probably Liam Eichenberg, are going to be effective enough with the quality running backs you have and Ingold blocking to attack a team in the interior that way? Or would you go more outside zone on 3rd and short? Or would you continue to throw the ball the majority of time on 3rd and short?
I think the answer is all of the above. And the reason the answer is all of the above is because they don't have a tush push. They don't have that play. They don't have a Lusaka Polite. They don't have a fullback who's going to grind it in there and get you that 1 yard. They have Tyreek Hill, and this is something I continue to monitor and examine, because I think it's they need a new play, a new scheme, a new approach to address this issue. I think this is a Mike McDaniel out the box thinking kind of solution. Their problem is they are an outside zone team, and I've asked Alec Ingold this question. I really need to ask Mike McDaniel the question. When you're an outside zone running team, your guards are more athletic than power. Yes, Rob Hunt was a power player, but they didn't really have that much success even running behind Rob Hunt. But when you have those athletic guards, they struggle to move those power pigs. The 3, because in your goal line situation, we're putting in, that's when Benito Jones is in there. That's when Calais Campbell is in there. That's when probably Brandon Peely's in there. You're putting your biggest guys in there, and you have to move those players as an offensive lineman. I watched them practice it. It doesn't happen. That's when you need to get creative. Maybe you need to infuse the Wildcat. Maybe you go to the wing T. They got to figure something out, because I don't know how much of an issue it's going to be during the season, but at this point, I'm just fine with running the outside zone because it's
your best running play.
Yeah, outside zone is your play. Maybe, and Alec Ingold said this is about execution. It's not necessarily about the scheme or the coaching. It's about execution, man on man, beat your man. And, we just haven't seen it yet.
Yeah. So I have a question for you. If they went into the season planning on Odell to play, let's say 20 to 30 snaps a
Saw
game.
him today, by the way. Saw him today in the locker room. He's got a video of him lifting weights and getting congratulated by Tua.
Excellent. And we saw Isaiah Wynn too. The man is alive. Very encouraging news. It was good to see Isaiah Wynn ambulatory. There was nothing on his leg, nothing on his quad.
Looks fit too.
He looked very fit. Very encouraging. Okay, so here's my question for you. The snaps that would have gone to Odell Beckham, how do you see those 20 to 30 being allocated early in the season? Do you see some Robbie Chosen? Do you see Janu Smith? Do you see Julian Hill? Do you see Tanner Connor? Do you see Braxton Berrios? Who gets those snaps?
You really want me? Want me to get on my Robbie Chosen podium and say, and this is what I try to consistently help Dolphin fans understand. When you have two receivers that stretch the field and your entire offense is built on them stretching the field and taking a safety with them, you can't put Malik Washington out there and say to the Jacksonville Jaguars, oh, you need to keep a safety with him. It's not going to happen. So if I'm worried about something happening to Tyreek or Waddle, and I think they are worried about something with Waddle. And he looked good today. He looked good. He looked good. He wasn't even on the injury report. Was Waddle on the injury report?
No, he wasn't. Yeah, so the lower body issue that had bothered him for most of camp is a thing of the past. He was out of the red non-contact jersey on Monday, so he looks to be fine. And Tyreek also not acknowledged on the injury report either. So they're fine, as is Berrios. It's your three healthy veteran receivers who are on the 53.
So maybe I need to soft step my Chosen's prediction because Waddle's not on the injury report. But you do have to be concerned. You have to have another speed receiver on the field if something happens to one of those two, because it dictates what you do and how you play. So I am of the opinion that Chosen will be elevated. But to answer your question, I think this is Braxton Berrios' time to step up. I think this is Malik Washington's going to get, a small Uzukama package where it's like, here are your 3 plays, master your 3 plays. Let's see what you can do in that. And I think it's going to be a heavy dose of Janu. I just do. And a heavy dose of 2 tight ends. I think this team's best formation is 2 tight end package. So
I agree with you totally. Yeah, I would go heavy 12 personnel. I don't agree with you on Malik Washington. I don't know if he's active on Sunday. I mean, maybe
backup returner though. Backup returner.
Yes. I guess that would be the only case he could make to be active. But you're not going to bring 6 receivers to the game. And if you bring Robbie Chosen, then who's the other one as your 5th? Is it Grant Dubose? Does he have more special teams value than Malik Washington? I doubt it's going to be D. Eskridge, who's on the practice squad. It's not going to be Eric Ezukama in all likelihood, who we didn't see today. He's on the practice squad, obviously. So to me, it's either Chosen and either Malik or Dubose. And I guess that's a decision that's pending.
Dubose would have to be a special teams guy. And the way that I'm looking at special teams and gunners, they don't need anymore. They look pretty good there. We've seen some very dedicated special teams time, and they look pretty good there. So I don't think Dubose is going to be active. You make a very good point. I can go Malik Washington or I can go Chosen. The question is, who knows the playbook more? Who can contribute more in special teams?
Right. Where Grant Dubose has been here a week. He said the playbook's a little similar to Green Bay, but with a lot more motions. By the way, we didn't mention something that we're both aware of, but we simply forgot to mention in the last 5 minutes, which is a possibility that some of Odell's snaps go to Achane with Mostert together. So the 2 of them together.
I don't buy that.
Now you've never been crazy about that. Why does that package not interest you more? They are explosive when the 2 of them are on the field together. Achane was telling me he loves that package. Teams have to worry about both of them, plus the 2 speed receivers. So why do you not advocate seeing more of those 2 together?
It's not that I don't advocate seeing more of those 2 together. And I think it's a package that will be used. I think it'll be tested, and they'll see how teams respond to it. And then they'll call plays in the second half based on how teams respond to it. What I think is that Achane isn't as sure a pass catcher as people think he is. And people have this impression that he's going to be Darren Sproles and a scat back and a guy who catches 40 passes per season. And I don't see that ability. I don't see those hands.
Well,
I think
no drops last year. 37 passes thrown to him, 27 caught, no drops. Did average only 7.3 per catch. So you're right. He's not explosive like Sproles. Did have the 3 touchdowns. He needs to get more first downs on receptions. Had only 10 first downs on 27 catches last year. So he needs to improve in that area. So I agree with you to an extent. I think his hands are fine. I just think he needs to make more of his receptions, much like he makes more of his carries.
Yeah, definitely. It's a package that there's so package. Keep talking about package. It is an offensive package that the two running backs, you got the 2 tight ends, you've got Janu in the backfield, you've got the 3 receiver sets. They're full of packages, Barry. They're full of it.
It's going to be a fun offense again.
Yeah, they should. Without a doubt, my standard is definitely the Dolphins should have a top 5 offense. So
yes,
it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. We will be back, Dolphins in depth, later this week, wrapping up, getting you ready for the season opener on Friday. So on that note, we are out.